I feel kind of icky doing street photography. Get deep into something. Don't shoot touristy stuff. Don't. Just avoid it. Hey, this is the Double Negative Podcast, a photography podcast by Will Malone, with your host, me, the titular Will Malone. In this episode, I wanted to talk about why travel photography kind of sucks most of the time and what to do about it. But first, abandoned shopping cart of the week. In honor of today's topic, I wanted to talk about this abandoned shopping cart of the week, found in Manhattan, in New York City. Now, abandoned shopping carts in New York City are few and far between, believe it or not. I covered a lot of ground and I only found like 4. In that time, if I were walking around in the southeast of the US, I would have found hundreds. But the contrast of shopping carts in New York City versus where I live is funny, because where I live, they're often just abandoned. They're left behind. They're ditched somewhere, never to be utilized by that person again. But in New York City, they were often chained to signs and posts, as if the person who had commandeered the abandoned shopping cart was planning to come back to it. It's almost like it was bike chained, and they didn't want to lose their valuable thing they found. So I just find that interesting. Culturally, shopping carts, abandoned shopping carts, are kind of a different breed in the mean streets of New York City. And you can purchase a postcard pack of some of my abandoned shopping carts over on willmalone.com right now. It's a great way to support me and this channel and the whole Double Negative experiment. You can also buy prints on my website as well. Huge way to support. But if you would like to support me in a way that doesn't cost you anything, you can like this video and subscribe to this channel. And you can also subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Double Negative Dispatch on Substack. Got a lot of stuff there. I'm going to start having some paid content, some extra stuff put up there too. So if you want to become a paying member over there, then you're going to get some extra stuff soon. So it's going to be fun. But now to the topic at hand. Why travel photography sucks. And I think oftentimes we think, you may hear that and you may think, travel photography doesn't suck. I love travel photography. That's the only time I can get out of my bubble and take photos of things that I don't get to see at home. It's the only time I really enjoy photography, because I get to see new freshness and I don't have to work as hard to create something. I don't have to overthink. And that is true. I do find if you're burnt out on where you live, travel photography is a good refresh or reset on just seeing stuff you don't normally see. And it just makes photography just easier overall. But as I've grown and matured in photography, when I go abroad, I tend to struggle with taking photos because I've done it so many times. Like I've traveled to different places with my camera so many times, and what I come back with is a lot of snapshots, a lot of one-offs. There's nothing that I can really sink my teeth into that I can find more depth in over time. Because where I am now, it's hard for me to want to go just shoot a photo of a cool thing, especially a cool thing that is screaming for me to take a photo of it. I kind of want to go deeper. And the only way to go deeper in a place is by visiting it multiple times. I really think successful photography of a place really requires time. And a lot of times you visit a place once and you may never go back. Maybe you go back 3 years later or something like that. To me, my best photos tend to come from repeated visits to a place. And it's just hard to do if that place is far away or expensive to get to or whatever. And so to me, I just find it somewhat unsatisfying to go take photos of the beach and palm trees and, New York City, which I'll talk about in a second, because it's just like I don't live there and I don't have enough opportunity to really like find something to sink my teeth into that I really feel the need to document. And that's a growth thing. That's a maturity thing. I think a lot of people who are hobbyists and stuff, they just want to get out of their bubble and go shoot some stuff that's cool. I am dedicated to photography in a different way, which I talked about this in last week's newsletter, but like those photos don't really exist. And what I mean by that is none of our digital photos exist. Nothing that we are taking photos of with our phone, our cameras, whatever, they don't exist until we print them and put them in the real world. And so I'm always thinking about the photography I'm interested in shooting. I can capture a subject that I find interesting, but then I can also do something with it. And that's what I've been talking about lately with postcards, and postcards are kind of the place I'm thinking about putting my new images currently, is just having a place for them to exist in real life. Because obviously when I die, I have a dead man switch set and all of my work will be deleted immediately. So anything that isn't printed, no one will find again. I'm just kidding. I don't. But that's actually sounds pretty badass to do that, to have a thing where if you die, it's just like everything's wiped. I don't know. Maybe I should do that. That's kind of cool. That's kind of what we're all doing in a sense, actually, because unless you're super obsessed with backing up and cloud storage and all that stuff, like your photos on your phone and all that stuff, that's just going to go away. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's stuff you capture, but you're not giving anything to like future generations. Like when I die, they're going to find a stack of Polaroid albums over here of at least a few years of Polaroids. They're going to find a box of postcards. So what I'm trying to do is make stuff that can move into the future a little bit. And the postcard thing is a really great medium for that because it's cheap and it doesn't cost anything. And so when I am taking photos right now, I'm thinking about it in postcards, which is conducive to travel photography, I think, but it has just changed kind of what I'm looking for in photography. But I wanted to talk about New York City specifically because it's a big topic in the photography world, which is street photography. The YouTube photography space is very much like street photography is very much a big topic. It's very popular. In fact, a lot of the channels I like, Developing Tank, Tatiana Hopper, like these photographers that talk about the history of other photographers, they talk a lot about street photographers. And then you have, like Polly B and like Trevor Wisecup and people like that who are like just they're bringing attention to the sub medium of street photography. And I think New York is kind of like that's where you do it. That's the place to be. I mean, obviously people can do it in other cities, but New York is kind of the place where you just kind of have an endless buffet of street photography opportunities. So you would think that when I go to New York City, it's just like all out nonstop photographs, but I struggle to take photos in New York City because I don't love street photography a ton. I did some when I was trying to take a picture of something interesting. I actually managed to accidentally get photos of people here and there because I was trying to shoot past them or trying to shoot a photo of, a shopping cart, for instance. And then I get this photo of this person because I went to New York City with just one camera and one lens, just so I didn't have to think about it. I'm going to talk more about this. We're going to have kind of another podcast about travel and travel photography. I'm going to talk about kind of what I like to pack when I travel, kind of my gear philosophy when traveling. That episode is forthcoming. But I only brought one camera, one lens. I brought my Nikon ZF. And I brought one lens. That's it, 28 millimeter. So I just had that. That way I didn't have to think about anything. But the problem is when I wanted to shoot a photo of a man with a, say, trombone on his back, I couldn't really hone into the guy. I managed to get a photo of this other woman next to him, and she's staring at me because I was just trying to get a photo of the trombone, but it's so wide that I just capture everything in view. Same with this image of a shopping cart full of goods that this person was selling, and he just happened to be sitting on the ground in front of it, and he saw me, stare. I just took a picture of the shopping cart and he's staring right at me. And that's probably the closest I get to street photography. Street photography is not really a thing that I love doing. And I think I really appreciate street photography. I really like really good street photography. The reason I'm not interested in it is more of just a personal me thing. It's just, I feel kind of icky doing street photography. I feel icky mostly because of the time we're in. And I'm not saying the act of street photographer is icky or gross, or I'm not criticizing anybody who's into it. I just feel, for me, I feel kind of like weird because I'm going to shoot photos of this person that I don't know, and then I'm just going to put them on Instagram, which is just kind of like an app full of junk mail. Instagram's just kind of a garbage dump of everything. And it just feels weird to like kind of steal this photo of a person, to take their soul with my camera, and then just throw it on Instagram next to a bunch of like recipes and women doing squats at the gym. I don't know. It does feel weird to do that. I think past street photographers in olden times, they only had a couple places to distribute this work, and it was, giving people something that they don't really see very often, and they would put it in a gallery, they'd put it in a book, and there's something that treats those photos of strangers with like more importance with those distribution methods. And I feel like we don't really treat street photography with importance. It's all kind of about the photographer more than it is about the subject. And I know we have the tools we have, and not everybody can afford to make a book, not everybody can afford to do a gallery show. Again, I'm not criticizing street photography. I just think for me, I just feel kind of silly doing it because I don't know. I don't like to just take photos of people unless they are actively participating in what I'm making, or down with it in some way. Because I just would hate for somebody to have their photo taken and not be happy with it or not want me to do it. And I just don't want to deal with that. I just don't want to deal with that stuff. So I go to New York. What do you take photos of? Well, obviously there's all kinds of stuff in New York, but it's like until I get a groove or understand kind of what I'm looking for, it's hard for me to like get in the mindset of shooting interesting things. And New York, everything in New York City is begging to be photographed. And I kind of resent it for that a little bit in a weird way. Like there's so much that's just super obvious that everyone photographs. And not only that, but I feel like because I don't live in New York City, it's hard to really like invest in a particular place. Like if I were to tackle New York City, if I were to really make a photo series out of New York City, it'd probably require me being there or living there for a certain amount of time and kind of honing in one particular area. But oftentimes when I'm there for just a weekend or there to do just a couple things, I end up just covering a lot of ground and not getting to spend much time in one place. And so to me, it's hard to make work in those conditions, right? But again, there's all kinds of stuff. And I think this trip to New York City that I took last week, I actually went just for no reason. I went for fun. We actually, me and a friend went to go see Glenn Ross on Broadway with Kieran Culkin and Bob Odenkirk and Michael McKean and Bill Burr. Like we went pretty much just to go see that play. I heard about it last year and I was like, I feel like I should see this. Glenn Ross is one of my favorite movies. And I was like, I got to see the play. So we got tickets around Christmas and so we got to go see it. So that was why I went to New York this weekend, was pretty much just to like do that and then eat some good food and stuff. So I didn't really have a big agenda. It allowed me to be very minimalist with my gear. And it also just allowed me to not feel like I had to have something to show for content of going to New York City. So I feel like I could just relax. I could just get into the groove. I could just only take photos of stuff I wanted to take photos of. So I feel like this time, of all my New York trips over the past years, which I go fairly often, I think I kind of cracked how to get better photography, better images in New York City when I've struggled in the past. And I've got some tips here, and maybe you can connect with them. I don't know. But I actually wrote notes for this episode, so that's a big step for me, that I would be this organized. And I think the key for this New York visit, to make photographing New York actually interesting to me, I think the key to it was having this abandoned shopping cart project going on in the background. Now, I am not... every time I go out of the house, every time I have my camera, I am not actively looking for abandoned shopping carts. I kind of let them come to me. Actually, I mean, I don't even have to look for them, really. They just come to me, honestly. Like all of the ones like I have shot, the postcards on wilmalone.com, go buy some. Those postcards, like most of them were just total accidents. I went to one shopping cart that I saw somewhere, photograph it, and then I see around the corner another one. And it just like becomes a chain. Like oftentimes I think I have gone out to purposely look for shopping carts maybe one time, maybe two, but all of them mostly are just like happenstance. But I have this thing going on, this project going on, this kind of mundane sort of weird project where I'm just photographing abandoned shopping carts. But that kind of leads me to shoot other things that are kind of in that vein, meaning just like weird, simple things that people don't think about, people don't notice, or just things that catch my eye. And it doesn't have to be super manipulated by me. Like typically, if you follow me a lot, I like double exposure. So not everything has to be just this abstract double exposure art piece. But last time I went to New York City was probably, actually it was only a couple months ago. It was like end of the year last year. And I went with my wife, and I struggled. I didn't take very many photos on that trip that I loved because I was just, I think I only brought a Polaroid. And I think that was a really bad set of photos that time. I think I got one really good photo the whole trip, and then the rest was just wastes of Polaroid. And so, or no, maybe I got a few. But anyways, I was doing that. I was looking for double exposure opportunities. So I was looking for pieces I could use for my own imagination, instead of just letting the subjects be what they are, I wanted to have some aspect of manipulation in it. This time I didn't even go in with those kind of expectations. In fact, last time I had my Polaroid 365 going, so I had expectations. I had to shoot a Polaroid each day while I was there. This time I had zero expectations. I just had to show up to a Broadway show that I planned to go to, and that was kind of it. So I didn't really have expectations, which made the photo opportunities easier, and it made me not feel like I had to do this or that, which is probably how I should do all photography from forever, honestly, and probably how we should all do photography, because I think we in the back of our head are shooting for likes and whatever. We're trying to like get something out of it, and I think that kind of like poisons the work. So I think that one key to having travel photography that you're happy with is to have a bigger project going on in the background. Just something that you're kind of been working on, something that you're looking for, something you have your eye on, something you're chipping away at, and see if that place that you're going to can offer its own version of that thing. And then you can photograph whatever sprouts from that. Because, for instance, a couple weeks ago, well, actually probably, might be a month ago now, I did a video where I was photographing bathrooms. In a second. And I've had this idea for shooting certain types of bathrooms, dive bar bathrooms, different bathrooms that are kind of unique. And I haven't really found something to bite into on that. I've kind of workshopped that project, but like I haven't really continued to find bathrooms that I find interesting. That was kind of in the back of my mind too, of just like, if I find an interesting bathroom, I got to take a picture of it. So we went to this ramen place, and I found this like tiny sink in the bathroom, just ridiculous, kind of grody. And I pulled my cheapo flash out, stuck it on the camera, and just shot a picture of it. And actually, this is probably one of my favorite photos from the week, simply just because it's so like funny. You know, it's what I talked about in my newsletter a couple weeks ago. It's just funny, and it's just a tiny sink. And in fact, I will probably make a postcard out of this. I've got another postcard pack in the works that is kind of its own unique thing, maybe a random assortment. So this will probably be a postcard here soon. I don't know. It's just great. I enjoy it. I really like this picture a lot because it's so ridiculous. So having this like greater theme idea, just something I've been after in the back of my mind, helps with photography while traveling. I'm taking a road trip in a couple months, cross country again, and I don't want to just shoot landmarks and national parks and stuff. I want to come back with something I'm happy with. So it'll be cool to see what happens with maybe the shopping cart project, or maybe some other thing I'm interested in that I'm kind of looking for. So yeah, shopping carts put me in a different place. The idea of funny photography, which I talked about in my newsletter a couple weeks ago, about how just seeing something weird that makes me chuckle has become a genre, an offshoot of my photography that I've always kind of leaned into, but I don't really show those photos very often. And I've kind of just like accepted that oftentimes I take photos because something causes me to chuckle, even if it's not that funny to other people. Honestly, I've been leaning into that more. Another thing, packing minimalism. Carrying a bunch of gear around is a nightmare for traveling. Truly. I've talked about this before, maybe like the amount of cameras you bring or whatever. I think bringing no more than 2 cameras if you're going on a trip, but man, if you could do one and one lens, it's perfect, because you're seeing from a certain point of view, and you're able to just, for however long you're there, you're able to get deep in thinking in a certain way. And to me, that's just the key to all this stuff. That's the key to all this photography stuff, and how to make it good and satisfying to you is get deep into something. Like Instagram, social media, all this stuff incentivizes us to skip across the water and just like dance around, go to a resort, do these things where you're just kind of like staying on surface level, but you're never getting deep into a place. And I think that having just one lens, one camera, just allows you to just like, first off, just stop thinking about the camera. I actually get somewhat angry if my camera gets in the way. If I'm spending all this time thinking about my camera, my settings, if it's not doing what I want it to do, I actually get somewhat frustrated, and it's really upsetting to me. So I don't put myself in a position where the camera is just going to piss me off to no end. So bring a Nikon digital camera. That's the most reliable, easiest to use camera for me. So I just I don't think about it. 24 to 28 focal length is kind of my favorite, just because I can capture everything I want to capture in a frame. I like capturing environments of a subject as well. I don't like singling out subjects. I like seeing subjects where they are. All my shopping cart photos, essentially, pretty much all of them. I have them taped on the wall here. You can't see it. But all of the shopping cart photos, I'm pretty sure, have been shot with the Nikon ZF 28mm lens combo, except for a couple of them. I think the one with the seagull was shot with an 85. But largely, I shoot everything with that same lens just because I like being able to see everything around. And so to me, like, that's just a really comfortable way to shoot. It makes getting close up to stuff striking. It makes just the environment striking because you can just fit a lot of stuff in the frame. So just having a simple Nikon digital camera with a one focal length prime lens, you may have anxiety when you just choose that one thing, but then when you get out there and you just know when you see something that this is all I got, you kind of embrace it. And then you just end up making interesting things because you only have a limited tool. So I would recommend, if you can, I mean, if you're a working photographer and you need to bring a bunch of stuff, that's a different thing. But if you're not there to work and if you're just there to shoot, just bring one. You really don't. I mean, I'm in this place where my next trip I'm going on, I'm going to have to bring that and a Polaroid just because I kind of bounce between those two things. But really, ideally, I would love to just have one, right? And keep it as minimal as possible, because it's just a distraction. Subject matter, what you're trying to say with the images, is way more important than the cameras. I honestly think it's getting to this really absolutely silly point of how much we talk about cameras, because it's all just preference. They're all good. It's really just about what you're comfortable with using. It's a means to an end. It's not like the reason to get in photography. So, and then finally, third point, I would say, and this is going to sound crazy, especially if you don't get out much. If you don't get to travel much, then this may be a tough one to swallow. But I fully believe this is the case. Again, disclaimer, I'm biased because I grew up in Hawaii. I grew up in a tourist trap, right? There's just tourists everywhere. I have a natural resentment to tourists. I have a natural resentment to tourism. I find it obnoxious. When I travel, I tend to avoid touristy things, the things that everybody wants me to see, Eiffel Tower, Empire State Building. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care, because I grew up in Hawaii, and the stuff that isn't touristy is actually way better than the touristy stuff. And all touristy stuff, too crowded. It attracts kind of grifty people who are just coming to like pickpocket and rip off tourists. It's just like gross, and it's not fun. Everyone gets the same photos. So number 3 is, don't shoot touristy stuff. Don't. Just avoid it. I promise you won't care about those photos. Say you're walking around New York City. Say you're walking on the Chelsea High Line and you see this perfectly composed shot of the Empire State Building or the Chrysler Building or whatever. And you're just like, oh, that looks cool. Don't shoot it. Unless you're doing a series of like boring tourist photos, don't shoot it. If you just happen to walk into a clearing where you get an amazing skyline, number 1, guarantee everyone's stopping to take that photo too. Number 3, that photo, it's just going to go away. You're going to put it maybe as an Instagram story. Maybe you'll put it in a post, but you're just going to forget about it. It's not going to mean anything to you, and it's not even worth taking. So I think one of the best things I can recommend about traveling, taking photos, is to also purposely not take certain photos. Like, sometimes don't have your camera out. Just let the stuff happen to you. Just ride on the wind. If you, when we landed, my friend is half Chinese, and so he wanted to take me to Flushing, Queens, to take me to a soup dumpling place. And so we went to get soup dumplings in Flushing, Queens, which is kind of the one of the Chinatowns in New York. Obviously, there's a Chinatown in Manhattan, but this is kind of where a lot of the overflow went. As Chinatown in Manhattan got really full, a lot of Chinese people moved to Flushing, Queens. And so it's a very cool other Chinatown. And so we're walking around, and I knew, I was like, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to like have to pull my camera out here, because there's going to be some interesting stuff to see. And I think some of my favorite photos I shot on this trip were probably there because I could just sense, okay, there's going to be some interesting stuff, like a sign that says something about sex toys. I don't know. I don't speak Chinese, but I was like, that's funny. Some circumcised corn, Okay. Never seen corn husked like that. That's kind of interesting. I live in the South. We husk corn one way, with our uncircumcised corn. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Pants, buy one, get one free. It was like Kirkland sweatpants, but just right there in the street. So I just kind of could sense, okay, there's going to be some stuff here. But then when we got to Manhattan and we were walking around, near Washington Square Park or Chelsea High Line, near the World Trade Center, the Oculus, which I have photographed multiple times, but it's just, again, it's one of those things that's just like a trap. It's like it wants you to take photos of it. It exists to be photographed, and everyone's going to get pretty much the same photo of it. No line at the front. Just the back. Unless you live there and you have enough time to get deep and you can find more interesting ways to photograph that thing. But that, to me, that just takes time. I don't spend enough time to think deeper about certain places. So when we walk around the more polished touristy areas, I didn't even have my camera out, actually, because it's just like, why? Touristy photos are just going to take up space on my already basically full NAS. So I don't want to deal with that, right? So I only had my camera out sometimes. And I think that, yeah, you could argue you'll miss some stuff. Maybe you see something cool, but miss some stuff. Who cares? Miss some stuff. We're not going to these places to be like factories, right? We're going to these places because, first off, to enjoy what they have to offer. You can't just be just a fly on the wall only. You have to be a human being that takes part in whatever's going on. And you have to just in order to take good photos, you have to live life. And so I have gone in the past frantically trying to shoot all I can shoot because I didn't know when I was coming back. I used to always get stressed out. I got to take all these photos because I don't know when I'm coming back. Maybe I never come back. And I just want to make sure I capture all of it. And then guess what? I don't think about that set of photos again. That was the first time I went to New York City in 2016. I just went crazy, had all this anxiety, always had my camera on me, shot everything I could. And I don't think I shot a single photo that I look back on or care about. In fact, most of it's unedited because I didn't even bother editing any of it because a lot of it just wasn't that great. And so this time around, I feel like I actually got some unique stuff and actually captured some things that were funny. And I also did get some good double exposures, some double exposures that I'm actually pretty happy with. I hadn't shot a ton of double exposures recently, but I just saw a few opportunities to get some interesting ones. And so I'm really happy with those as well. And I got some that I really liked. So I kind of, because I relaxed, number one, because I relaxed, I didn't have a ton of camera gear, which allowed me to relax. And I didn't always feel the need to have my camera out. So as I kept a level of relaxation that let me look forward to when I pulled my camera out and also felt like I was pulling out my camera for an interesting reason. It helps to have a project going on in the background, something you're already thinking about, something you're already chewing on, something you're in the mind space of. I mean, last time I was doing the Polaroid 365 project, so you could argue that I was doing that last time as well. This time, it was more subject matter related. Last time it was about Polaroids. It's kind of about the medium, right? Now I'm just kind of I don't know if I care about cameras or any of this stuff anymore. I'm just caring about photographing certain things. And that was kind of where my head was at. And that put my mind in a space to where I was looking for different things than I normally would. Then number 2, minimalist camera setups. All you film photography people, just pick one camera. Just pick one camera, okay? Maybe just a Polaroid. I've done that. I've gone with just a Polaroid. Just pick 135 millimeter, or just go digital because honestly, it's kind of a waste of time to shoot roll film. Sorry, I'm not going to die on that hill, but I shot some roll film for another project I've been working on. The other day, I shot some Portrait 800 and a point-and-shoot Minolta that I've been using, and they all turned out terrible. And it wouldn't have turned out terrible if I just shot digital. I would have had more control. I would have got it the first time. I wouldn't have missed all those shots. This Minolta point-and-shoot's autofocus is terrible. And I paid $40 to develop it all and get high-res scans, and I got 2 good shots off the roll. My hit rate would have been better with digital. So, roll film, kind of a waste of money right now to me. But But yeah, so minimalist gear, one lens, one camera. If you can, just makes life easier. Just, you don't have to think about stuff. You don't have to think about the camera. You're just looking around, snapping photos of stuff. And also it's just lighter to carry. It's just, I get anxious carrying too much stuff. And then don't shoot touristy stuff. Don't go to Paris. Don't shoot the Eiffel Tower. Don't. It's a waste of megabits. It's just a waste of film. It's a waste of anything. Just don't. And look at it, enjoy it. You've seen it. You watched it with your own eyeballs. You don't have to prove to anybody you saw the Eiffel Tower. Just don't shoot it. Just have your camera put away. You're in a touristy area. Just put your camera away. Don't shoot it. Don't. It's a waste. Look in other areas. When you pull your camera out, go to places that make you want to pull your camera out, but not for the obvious reason. You know, if you're standing in a spot and you're looking around and everybody's got their camera out, don't, just bail. Who cares? And this isn't about like what other people think. It isn't just simply the fact that everybody's taking the same photo. I know a lot of people will say that, like, well, it doesn't matter. I don't care if people are all shooting the same photo. Great. But what I'm saying is that in order to think deeper, you got to get over the touristy stuff. And again, I know I'm biased. I resent tourism and touristiness. I don't like touristy places. You know, go to Hawaii. Don't go to the Dole Plantation. Just don't do it. You know, don't go to Diamond Head. You can see it from the beach. Just move on from that stuff. So yeah. Does that make sense? Did I take too hard of a stance on that? Probably. I don't care. This is my podcast, so I can say that. Don't shoot touristy stuff. Just don't. Avoid it. It's useless. It's useless to you. It's useless. You're wasting money developing. You're wasting money on hard drive space. Just look deeper. You know, think a little harder about what's worth pulling your camera out for. We don't have to shoot everything. Okay. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate you. Hopefully you got something out of that. Hopefully you can take some of this with you when you travel next time. But yeah, I don't know. You can follow me on Instagram at Will Malone. You can follow my Polaroid Instagram account at Everyday Instant. I'm kind of thinking about that account a little differently. I've got some little Polaroid mini series I've been doing. Excited to share those with you. And go subscribe, Double Negative Dispatch. I'm going to start having some paid content there, so you're going to want to subscribe to that if you want some of the extra stuff. You're going to get some extra stuff. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. Extra photos, maybe some extra tips like this. Maybe I'll make a whole series about tips for travel and different things. And then yeah, like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Go buy a postcard. Go to willmalone.com. Purchase an abandoned shopping cart postcard. I'll have some new postcards up very soon. And speaking of very soon, that's when I'll see you next. Very soon.